the privilege of hearing from an esteemed expert on population whose insights and expertise will guide us in exploring solutions and strategies that align with Rotary's core and objectives. So ito po yung ating program. First, call to order. Then we have our opening prayer, our national anthem for weight test, and then we can move on to the talk. And then you will recognize our resource speaker, closing remarks, and adjournment. So to set things in order, papakilala po ako. I am Rotarian Francie K. Sobalza. Yeah, women and girls' rights advocate or feminism. And then, and then I will call on my father for the call to order. See, our Hope Creating President, Francis Sobalza.
Thank you, Francie. Good morning, everyone. I will now call this first webinar of RC Kagitingan Cubao come to order.
Okay, sige. Thank you. Now let's move on to our opening prayer. Our past president, Florence Daus, or si Pipi Renz.
Thank you, Francie. Dear, let's put ourselves in support. Dear Heavenly, thank you for gathering us today and making it possible to connect with people worldwide through this webinar. Lord, we come together seeking to learn and grow. Send your Holy Spirit so that your presence will be felt all throughout this webinar. We pray for your guidance, wisdom, and understanding as we listen and participate in this webinar. Thank you, Lord, for sending us a speaker to share her expertise and knowledge. May every word that comes out from her lips be your words, O Lord. And Lord, we also pray for all participants and attendees to listen and have an open hearts and mind. All this we pray and ask in Jesus' mighty and precious name. Amen.
Thank you, Pipi Renz. Now let's move on to the singing of our national anthem. I'd like to ask Ms. Ice to share the screen na lang.
Witness a history in our lifetime as we bring back to life what a true Rotarian should be. Service above self, unity in diversity, and inclusivity, all for one and one for all. This is our chance. This is our time to rise up and be the example of what humanity can achieve. Together, let's create hope in the world. So let us sing with one voice the Philippine National Anthem.
Mga kababayan, ang pambansang awit ng Pilipinas.
Kayang magdilim, dalas ng sinakanan, alam ng puso, sa dikit mo'y buhay. Upang hinirang, tuyag ka ng magiting, sa mandulupin, di ka pasisingil, sa nagatak tutok sa simoy at sa langit mong pagaw, ay hinatang tudlang awit sa paglayang minamahal. Ang isang ng matawad mo'y tagumpay na nag-iindig, ang bituin at araw niya kailan pa may di magdidilig. Lumanang araw ng walhaging pagsinta, buhay langit sa piling mo. Ang hinigaya ng pagkay mga aking, ang mga
Now I would like to call on Rotarian John Javigo for our four-way test.
Morning, everyone. Before we test of the things we think say or do, is it the truth?
Is it the truth?
Is it fair to all concerned?
Is it fair to all
To all
concerned?
concerned.
Will it build goodwill and better friendships?
Will it build
goodwill
goodwill and better friendships?
Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Will it
Will
be
it be
beneficial?
beneficial to all concerned?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. So now I would like to welcome our Hope Creating President for his welcoming remarks.
Good morning, everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, esteemed participants, welcome to our webinar on world population. In celebration of the World Population Day, we as Magigitings, known for our commitment to service above self, fell into crucial question of why population matters. Through our commitment to sustainable projects and initiatives, we recognize that population matters because it directly affects the well-being of the individuals and communities. By understanding the complexities of population dynamics, we can design and implement impactful programs that uplift lives, empower marginalized groups, and create pathways to a better future. Today, as we embark on this webinar, we have the privilege of hearing from an esteemed expert on population whose insights and expertise will guide us in exploring innovative solutions and effective strategies that aligns with Rotary Core's uses and objectives. I encourage each and every one of you to actively engage in the discussions, share your experiences, and contribute to the unique perspective. Together, let us leverage the spirit of Rotary to amplify our efforts, ignite inspiration, and work hand in hand to tackle the complex issues surrounding the world population matters. Thank you, and have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you, Francis. Very inspiring indeed. Now let's call on VP Noel Quintana to introduce our resource speaker. He is our Satellite Club chair.
I'm on, yeah. Thank you, Francie. Our guest speaker holds a doctorate degree in sociology from the University of Chicago. She obtained her master's degree in communication research and a bachelor's degree in broadcast communication, both from the University of the Philippines College of Mass Communication. She subsequently served as a faculty and dean at UP. She was recruited by the United Nations Population Fund, or UNFPA, in New York, where she served for 2 decades in various capacities, including as Senior Technical Advisor, as Country Representative in Mongolia, as Deputy Regional Director for the Arab States, and finally as Chief of Staff of the Executive Office until her retirement. She is now based in US, but as a professional lecturer via remote teaching at her alma mater, the University of the Philippines. Our speaker also became the first woman Rotarian of D3780, which was the first in the Philippines following the historic decision by the U.S. Supreme Court declaring it unconstitutional for RI to restrict members to only males. She became very active during her stay at the Rotary, held practically all positions in the club. She chaired the district for RYLA, or Rotary Youth Leadership Awards, for several years. She even led to the introduction of an advanced leadership program for young people called Advanced Rotary Youth Leadership Awards. She left Rotary at the height of her activeness when she was recruited to the United Nations in 1994. Fellow Rotarians, please welcome our speaker, Ms. Delia Varela Barcelona.
Thank
Let's
you.
give a round of applause.
Thank
I
you.
will start here.
So, is it my turn, Francie?
So,
So, good morning, everybody. Good day or good evening, wherever you are. So, thank you very much for inviting me to our first webinar. So, first, I'd like to acknowledge HCP Francis. Thank you for opening up the club for this particular webinar on this topic that is really unusual, maybe, for Rotarians to discuss. Thank you, Francie, for hosting. Thank you to PP Renz for the prayers. Thank you, VP Noel, for your kind introduction. Thank you to PP Dory for actually proposing that I do this webinar with you. You know, some of you may not know, but Dory and I have been friends for a long time. And one of our very first encounters in the Philippines was when we were both doing some work for UNFPA Manila as consultants. I was already with UP. So somewhere in this theme of population, there is a link between me and PP Dory. So thanks, and to all those who made time to attend, whether you're in Manila or in the USA or here in the East Coast, evening like ours. Thank you very much for making time. So I'm going to share my PowerPoint. I just have a few slides, and sabi nga ni Dory, we'll make it like a small conversation. So hopefully I'll make it short enough so that we have time for some conversation. And if you have any questions or comments at the end of it. So let me try to share. Okay, so this one. Thank you din pala kay J-Boy for the four-way test. Later on, I'm going to say something about the four-way test. I have this idea in mind about a book. Okay, so let me start with, okay, 1 second. So I wanted to start with a caveat that I am not a demographer. Usually people who talk about population issues, population dynamics, population matters are demographers, but I am not. In fact, when I was recruited to the UN, I was recruited as a communication professional, meaning to say looking at education, communication, behavior change, advocacy, the things that, parang siyang the soft side of development is really looking at how we do public information, how we make the public aware, how we promote some of these issues, how we advocate for laws and policies and programs. So I just wanted to put that out there that I am not a demographer, but I'm going to talk about numbers in the course of this presentation. But having been with UNFPA for 2 decades at least, and really the issue of population was coming out of my ears every day. This is our topic. These are the kinds of meetings we organize in the UN. We invite all kinds of experts from around the world. We have General Assembly meetings and commission meetings on these topics. I really feel that I have gained enough technical expertise in the area of population to talk about it. But in addition, because I care about these issues, because population matters for everyone, and it is a critical factor in sustainable development. So the way I have organized my presentation, let me move this a little bit. So, okay, 1 second. So just to give a little bit of background, maybe not everybody knows that there is a World Population Day. I'm going to share some population data. You might be shocked to find out I also want to focus a little bit on how we compare, with other Asian countries as the Philippines. Also try to elaborate a little bit on how population is making an impact on women and girls, although it's a huge topic, so we cannot go deep into it, but at least I can kind of highlight some of the linkages and then all the implications for development. So that's basically what I want to say in the few slides that I have tonight. So World Population Day, as we know, is celebrated every 11th of July. And the whole point in celebrating this day, the UN celebrates all kinds of days. Probably in the UN history, we must be celebrating annually something like 50 different kinds of days, all kinds of days, There's a day for women, there's a day for old people, there's a day for young people, there's a day for peace and security. So there's a day for everything. There's a Poverty Alleviation Day and all that. So July 11 is the World Population Day, which is really celebrated annually to focus attention on the urgency and importance of population issues, something that many people probably take for granted or ignore. This day was established in 1989 as an outgrowth of the interest generated by the Day of 5 Billion that was observed in 1987. I don't know how young some of you are. Maybe Francie hasn't been born. So this was started in 1987. And the theme, every year there is a theme. And I just highlighted two themes here from last year and this year. So last year, it was really focusing on gender equality. It was very interesting and really how to uplift the voices of women and girls to unlock our world's infinite possibilities. But this year's theme is equally important. It's really like imagining a world of 8 billion and a future that's bursting with promise and potential. So I don't know if you can imagine how many is 8 billion, it's a lot. It's hard to imagine what this number is, but it's a lot. It's a lot of numbers. And among the many slogans that the World Population Day also proposes almost every year, the one recurring message is always to lower down the burden on Earth by managing population dynamics. In the olden days, we used to talk population control, but that's already like a no-no. We don't talk population control. It's really population management. Because as we know, there are also some countries with very small populations, and they're really trying to increase their population by promoting, bigger family sizes. But the majority of the world, I would say, are on the side of a little bit overpopulated. So let's look into that. So just to mention that, as scientists and technicians, demographers and population experts project every year. So it was projected that 8 billion will happen in 2027. But as we now know, we reached 8 billion on the 16th of November last year, 5 years earlier than projection. So just to look at the numbers, something really daunting, to think about. It took us over 100 years to move from 1 billion to 2 billion. In 1804, we were only 1 billion people. 1927, more than 100 years later, we became 2 billion. During my time, the 1960s, we were already 3 billion. When I gave birth to my first daughter in 1974, we were already 4 billion. And then 5 billion was a big deal, when it happened, like, oh my God, we have so many people now in this world, 1987. And then I was already in the UN when we celebrated 6 billion. I don't know if the term is celebrating, it's probably recognizing, because we don't know if it's really worth celebrating, because there's a lot of challenges that come with population numbers. And then look at this, between 6 and 7 billion, it only took 12 years to double the billion. And also about the same time from 7 billion to 8 billion. So it's a bit scary because I think the population growth is going so fast, that we are multiplying so fast, It took 100 years in the beginning, and now it's only taking 12 to 15 years, to move from the 1 billion to the next billion. So the world population clock is indicating that we will have by 2030 about 8.6 billion, and by 2050 some 9.8 billion. So the question that we may want to ask ourselves is, and you've heard this question asked many times in other fora, what is the Earth's carrying capacity? Ano ba yung kakayanan ng Earth? Anong number yung kaya ng Earth na mabuhay tayong lahat, So there are all kinds of scenarios. Some people say 9 to 10 billion. It's that seems to be the more consistent projection, but there are also many other projections. Sometimes they say 7 billion is already like nearing the peak, and some say maybe up to 15 billion. I guess it depends on where you are. But overall, if you look at the whole Earth and the number of people living on Earth, scientists say that 9 to 10 billion may be the maximum that the Earth can sustain. And the word is sustain. Just to give you a little more statistical data. So these are the top 10 most populous countries as of, what is the year that I'm using here? 23, okay, as of this month. So we all know China, between China and India, that's already, like 1/3 of the world is China and India. But bring in United States, 334 million, Indonesia, 275 million, Pakistan, 247 million, Nigeria, 230, Brazil, 218, Bangladesh, 167. Do you know, those of you who are in the US, do you know that Bangladesh is just the size of Wisconsin? It's a small state in USA. It's the size, geographically, the land size is like Wisconsin, but the population is 218 million. I think the population of Wisconsin is probably 2 or 3 million. So just figure, how different. Russia, 141 million, and Mexico, 129 million. Just imagine, just with these 10 countries, how much, the population is growing in absolute numbers, So just going back to this point, what is the Earth's carrying capacity? So I said, okay, experts say 9 to 10 billion. But this is really kind of something to think about, if we will reach 9 billion by 2037, have you ever asked yourself, where will you be in 2037? I don't know, I probably won't be here anymore. I don't know, I hope I am, but I will be. But look, 2037 is just, about 14 years from now. So those of you who are young, you'll probably be in your mid-40s, mid-50s, and we will be reaching 9 billion people. And I don't know, where will you be in 2050? Maybe you'll be about the same age as me for 2080. So anyway, imagine the scenario, how many people we will have by then. So the visuals, I just included here 2 visuals. Just look at some of these images. You don't need to, as we say, a picture says 1,000 words. Just look at this typical place in India or the Philippines. Already it gives you a sense of the over-congestion is really based on growing numbers. Urbanization, there's mega cities. If you count the population, and population is growing faster in urban centers than in rural areas. That's why you remember many years ago in the Philippines, we had a program called Balik Probinsya. We were trying to encourage people to depopulate urban centers, depopulate Metro Manila, because if I'm not mistaken, the population of Metro Manila now is something like 15 million. When they say that it was built for like 8 or 9 million. So already you can imagine, the kinds of problems that come with unmanaged or uncontrolled population. Age pyramids. There are many ways to describe population data, but the most typical one is age pyramids. So look at the world. The world is like a real pyramid, which means to say it's we have a big young population, which is the bottom, from 0 to about 15. And then you have the working population, so the white one, the white lines, and then the aging population, on the top. So most experts would say you have to have a solid working population so that the dependency ratio is manageable. But when you have young populations, you look at it in two ways. One is it's a demographic dividend, as we call. Parang, if we invest in young people, young people have so much potential. They can contribute to the economy. You invest in their education, in their health, their employment, and they can really boost the economy. So there is what is called a demographic bonus by having a young population. But at the same time, there's a lot of challenges also when the opportunities are not provided. So the burden increases on the working population to maintain both a young population and an older population. Now, this is to the right is the Philippines, very steep, steeper yung age pyramid natin, which is it's almost like the norm. This is the norm in most developing countries, like a pyramid type, whether it's kind of expanded or steep, But there's also this notion that the best pyramid, if you can imagine this, is so almost like a diamond, where you have a strong middle. This white one in the world pyramid is like kind of the big area where you have the working population, so everybody's employed and productive, you can contribute to GDP or GNP, and then you have a smaller aging population and a relatively smaller young population. But that it's being challenged because it sort of goes against the idea that you need young people for the future. But the whole idea is lifespans are also getting longer. So most societies now, most countries now are beginning to really worry about, even America, like what do you do with the increasing number of older people? Pensions, many people are still, I'm retired, but I'm active. I want to remain active. So what do you do with me? What do you do with people like me? Like we don't want to retire, like, we're not like the typical older people, like you stay at home and you don't go out. So there's a lot of people who remain active even beyond retirement. And so most governments have to worry about, do they get social security or pensions, right? So now, PP Dory asked me to really touch a little bit on women. And so if you look at the pyramid again, we are half the population. Women consist of half of the world's population, or any population in any country. Most often it's half and half. Maybe the ratios vary, maybe 45-55, maybe 48-52, but generally we can say that half of the world's population is women. But the question is, are we getting our fair share? Because there are many, many examples of inequality and inequity. For example, and I may not have the time to go into all this, but more and more women now are working, right? But the roles remain. The traditional roles remain. They're expected to be homemakers. They're expected to take care of the home, to take care of the kids, So there is this notion that there is an imbalance. You encourage women to have a career or to work, and sometimes it's a necessity to be in a dual income family, that both man and woman, both husband and wife have to work because the economy is not good and you both need the income from both parents. And there's also the gender pay gap. We know that women, this is a global trend, women earn less than men for the same jobs. It's sad, but it's true. Education. Except perhaps in the Philippines, we have a good record of education. A lot of women go into higher education, and we have maybe there's a tendency to complete at least primary and secondary school, and maybe some kind of K-12 ba yun, yung short degree program. But in most countries in the world, including in South Asia and Africa, a lot of girls drop out of school and never get the chance to complete even a primary or secondary education. Women also have very poor access to healthcare. This is a big issue globally. Like, if you're the one taking care of the household and you're pregnant, how do how do you ensure that this woman gets, prenatal care or is delivered to the nearest hospital when there are complications? Sila din yung nagpe-fetch ng water, they do the cooking, they do the cleaning. So there's a lot, in fact, when I was in Mongolia, let me just say this one little anecdote. When I was in Mongolia, we organized a poster contest for young people. It was so disturbing that the posters that the young people did mostly visualized the woman, very busy in the kitchen or the bedroom or the living room taking care of the kids, and the man was lying down on the couch drinking vodka. This was the findings of that poster contest. It's like it was so ingrained in the perceptions of kids that this is the image they see in the household, right? So women and girls are also subjected to all kinds of gender-based violence, discrimination, domestic abuse, sexual harassment, like there's so many things, and harmful practices. This alone can be a topic that we can talk about. There's a lot of harmful practices that's happening in the world, whether it's early, forced, or teen or child marriage, the female genital mutilation or female genital cutting that's still happening in many Middle Eastern countries, honor killings in South Asian countries, So it's really sad that this is happening to a lot of women, and political participation is still low in most countries. I think we have maybe good statistics in the Philippines. Again, I'd like to say the Philippines has been cited by the World Economic Forum as one of the countries with a good gender parity when it comes to women in positions of management and all that. Maybe we're good in that area, but just take the case of Senator De Lima. We still have a lot of discrimination, and sorry, I don't want to go politics, but there's a lot of examples of this. We have a lot of teen pregnancies happening, and domestic abuse is happening. There's a lot of human rights violations even in the Philippines. So the point that the World Population Day made this year in the report that we launch every World Population Day is called the State of the World Population, or the SWOP report. So the one key message from this SWOP report of 2023 is that advancing gender equality is a cross-cutting solution to many population concerns. So I wanted to leave you with that message. So what are the population implications? So many things. And in fact, we can unpack all of this. Anong impact ng population on poverty levels? You can just imagine. I think, whenever I go home to the Philippines and I get to see Metro Manila or other places in rural areas, you see the squatters area. Hindi ba? It's so sad to see how congested and overpopulated these really low-income communities are. So sometimes I ask myself, is it a vicious cycle? Are they poor because they have many children, or they have many children because they're poor because they don't know any better? I don't know. It's really a sad vicious cycle. But the impact on population on poverty level is very, very evident. And in fact, you can just say, when it comes to family sizes, imagine if you have a family, you have 10 mouths to feed versus 2 mouths to feed. Isn't that like a simple notion that the burden economically is lighter when you have a smaller family, and maybe even if you're already poor, but if you don't have to feed, 5 or 6 or 7 children, you don't need to worry about sending them to school. You can imagine that, fewer children is more manageable than more children. The impact on hunger and food security, and I'm going to share some statistics with you on this. Impact on health and well-being. In fact, what I'm listing here is basically the Sustainable Development Goals. That population, when you look at the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, which is the platform agreed to by all countries in the world during the 2015, Agreement of the General Assembly, it's a 15-year development agenda addressing everything from poverty alleviation to partnership building. All of these topics are there. And population numbers is really like an underlying theme in all of this, whether it's gender equality, access to water and sanitation, access to energy, employment opportunities, food production, life on land and water, climate change. So there's just so much to talk about. This can be one webinar on its own. So some data I wanted to share with you. So according to the World Bank, about 719 million people are experiencing extreme poverty. Poverty, meaning to say they're living on less than $2.15. $2.15 is how much in pesos? That would be like tama bang 52? Ay, no, sorry, 110 pesos. Is that correct? So imagine this, can you live on 110 pesos, a day if you have a family of, 5, 6, 7, right? So it's really a serious issue when you get down to basics of family situations. So here, when you look at other countries, Asia accounts for 63% of the population of the 77 countries, 51% of total food insecure population in 2022. Imagine 63% of the population of the 77 countries studied for this report, 51% of them are total food insecure. Maybe people like us, I would say we are the privileged few. We belong to, we come from families where maybe hunger is not experienced. In fact, we have choices. We can eat when we want. We can go to restaurants. We can be picky when we're not hungry. You go to fine restaurants, have a drink, have food. We travel and eat. But, the average person, especially those who belong to this, those who live on poverty, below poverty levels, they don't even know what to eat. They may not even have access to water. So as you can see the graphs, it's highest in Asia. The food insecurity is highest in Asia. So I've already mentioned that, a lot of young girls are not in school. This one is, look at this, 131 million young and adolescent girls are out of school. That's the entire population of the Philippines, almost, 131 million of girls are out of school. And do you know, this is just to be blunt about it, but when I was still working with the UNFPA, I would visit places in Africa where girls drop out of school just because they begin their puberty. They begin to experience menstruation and they don't know what to do about it. They don't have the education. So because of the embarrassment of what they're experiencing as girls, they drop out of school and never go back. So that led to, the UNFPA actually promoting, reproductive health, hygiene kits for young girls, like basic sanitary pads and all that, making them available can make a difference in a young girl's life, so she can continue going to school and not be embarrassed about what happens to her on a monthly basis. This other graph on the bottom, and sorry, maybe they're not as visible because I kind of lumped them in fewer slides. The global access to electricity. Do you know that so many countries, so many places do not have access to electricity, that they're still using, basic coal, wood, and other things. So we're lucky we live in urban centers where these things are taken for granted. There's also a lot of countries that don't have water. So I'm just giving you this sense, without really going deep into how it's happening and what can be done, but just give you a sense of the urgency that when you talk population numbers, the impact on access to development programs and policies and services is really, really very critical. This I thought I would just mention very briefly. I call this the tale of two Asian countries, just maybe comparing ourselves with Thailand. Or maybe, yeah, I don't know why I chose Thailand, because I know that in 1970, I remember this very clearly from some of our discourse in UNFPA. In 1970, the Philippines and Thailand had the same exact population size, 36 million, 1970. Fast forward the story, 2009, our population is up to 92 and Thailand is 66. And they have remained almost around this number until now. And tayo nasa 108 na yata. So So what I'm saying is like, you wonder, why are we being left behind in Asia, right? And there's many explanations, but one economist that I invited to my class last semester, Professor Ernie Pernia, who used to head NEDA, Director General of NEDA, he gave very solid statistics on how our two economies are very different. I'm not an economist. Again, I cannot, I would rather not go into that. But the trend, he showed some graphs that really just demonstrated how Thailand has left us, has advanced so progressively, and that if we don't do anything about our economy, looking at all the other factors that impact on economy, we will be left behind by the Vietnams and the Indonesians, the Malaysians and the South Koreans and all that. So there was a time only Japan was the donor country in Asia. Now, in the whole definition of UN countries, where we begin to talk about middle-income countries and emerging donors, in Asia, ang dami ng donors, South Korea, Malaysia, Singapore, Hong Kong, and we are still like middle-income countries. We receive, grants from the UN, although we also contribute as part of the funds of the UN. So another population linkage that's very important to bring into the conversation is the fact that almost all countries have experienced some kind of disaster of some kind. This is just a graph on natural disasters. But when you think about the countries that are experiencing conflict, violence, wars, civil stripes, we say in one of the reports that I read in the UN that at least 100 out of 193 countries of the UN are experiencing some kind of conflict in addition to natural disasters. So this is serious. So again, think of Typhoon Haiyan. I was in the Philippines for Typhoon Haiyan, and you can just imagine, the amount of support needed. There are many issues about how the support was managed. Okay, we'll not go into that as well. How the funds are, we received so much funds, but how we managed it was a challenge. But the point is, can you imagine if a significant proportion of the population gets impacted by a natural disaster, whether it's floods, fires, or earthquakes? The amount of support that's needed to deal with the numbers is really very daunting. So again, more people, more challenges, more required resources, more support is needed. Now, I'm almost nearing the end of my presentation. So this is just to give you an idea of the risk levels of countries due to the climate change impact. Again, we're not going into climate change as an issue because that is another big thing to unpack. But if you look at the colors, so, you go by the colors, just look at the red ones, because these are the countries that are most at risk because of climate change, climate inaction. Where are we? Basically Africa, some parts of Brazil, some parts of South Asia. And the Philippines, we are in the kind of, moderate. Is that if you call it the orange, the light orange, 121 to 150, meaning to say there is, and it's not as extensive as some parts of Africa, that this whole climate change impact, the environmental degradation, and deforestation that's happening. That's why we have a lot of floods. It's happening, but it's not the entire country. So maybe our risk is a bit lower than some of these poorer countries in Africa. This is this is a very busy slide, but I was saying the population dynamics and the, HCP Francis also, mentioned this, the many population dynamics. So there are many layers to it, but, just to outline to you a few things, it has an impact on family size. I already say that. And that's why there are programs on family planning, on sexual and reproductive health. There's impact on overall health. And so we talk about access to food, medicine, water, and sanitation. The SWAP report this year also talked a lot about rights and choices. So there's a lot of impact on, can we make the choices for our lives? Some people say we have no choice. We were born poor. Is there a way that we could introduce, a shift so that people can get out of poverty? Or is it a vicious cycle? Once you're poor, you're forever poor. No, there must be some way to introduce opportunities that will turn your life around. We need an enlightened citizenry. That's why, you need education, democratic participation, communication, and advocacy. You need economic growth, you need people to work as well. So you need people. We're not saying numbers are bad, but it has to be a number that the economy of the country can contain. So, so GDP, business growth, innovations, technological advancement, these are all based on how many people are in the workforce or in the labor sector. The development needs of people, that's why we need more people-centered, pro-poor policies. I think this is where a lot of the work that Rotary is doing is really addressing the needs of the marginalized and those who are most at risk. Dealing with the environment, addressing stability and sustainability. The word sustainability is very, very important, and that's why even as we say, there's a lot of development that's going on, but is it sustainable? Can we continue this? Can you continue helping all kinds of communities? We have a slogan in the big UN where we say, no one is left behind. Maybe this is a good slogan also for Rotary. So do our programs allow us to not leave anyone behind? Because when people are left behind, meaning to say, we only focus on the ones that we can reach, the ones that are easy to deliver services to. But what about the most at risk, the most difficult to reach, Diba, may mga doktor ayaw magtrabaho sa rural areas because it's difficult. They would rather be in a hospital in an urban center because, there are more clients there. And definitely the vision, the impact of population dynamics on the vision. That's why when we talk about elections and democracy, let's vote for people who have the vision to deal with this issue so that, they talk about investing in young people, talking about future generations, dealing with the increasing aging population, talking about pension and social security, dealing with the longer lifespans and how technology, and again, young people and technology, they come together, right? Not always with older people, but I'm saying there's so much that technology can do to improve the lives of people, to reach, to reach them where they're unreachable. So now in summary, I just want to conclude by saying that, when it comes to population matters, we use this logo one time in the UN and it clicked, say everyone counts, because literally we support censuses and surveys. Do you know why we know how many people there are in every country? Because we support surveys and censuses. Without censuses that happen every 10 years, we would not know the numbers, right? So UNFPA is one of the biggest funding agencies for doing censuses around the world. That's why we know the numbers. And I want to leave you with these thoughts before we open it up for conversation and discussion. So first one is that population matters. I hope with this very short presentation, you will begin to realize that numbers matter. Population numbers matter. But it's not always about numbers because it's about people. Who are the people behind those numbers? Again, is the question that we need to ask. It's about gender equality. It's about rights and informed choices. It's about equal opportunities to thrive in this world. It's about the present as well as the future generations. So I leave you with this one question. How are you contributing to global development? You are one of 8 billion. Each one of us is a statistic in the 8 billion number. So the question is, how are you contributing to your global development? And I think, I will end my presentation and then we can have some discussion. Thank you very much. I'll stop sharing. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Delia. Very, very insightful presentation. It was so nice to hear from you. Maybe we could hear from the floor, kung meron, so we can get our conversation going. I believe mas important ang conversation in webinar. Ayan, si Francis.
Hey, Rotarian Francis, my daughter.
Yes, HCP. Francis,
Ikaw yung
can
meron-
hear.
Francis, I think ikaw mayroong concern dito. So I want you to start the
Okay.
discussion.
Sige. Sige. I think I read somewhere na in the parang yung United Nations nag-publish sila ng report on gender biases against women. And honestly, for me, nagulat ako kasi in mainstream media kasi it's talked about, in the circles I'm in, everyone is aware, ganon. And then magugulat ako na the numbers tell us otherwise na almost a decade of stagnation daw for gender biases against women. I don't know if you're familiar with this. So in the case of the Philippines, I just want to know ano ba yung mine-measure on that? Because among some of us, parang advanced na yung awareness natin to gender inequality and all of that. But then the numbers tell us otherwise. So I would like to hear what your thoughts are on this.
Thank you, Francie. So I don't know the exact report that you're referring to, but the UN produces hundreds of reports every year. So on all of the SDGs. So it could have been one of those reports on gender equality, which is SDG 5. So it's true that, almost all the reports, when you read about progress on the SDGs, they will always start with progress, right? The positive, the optimistic view of things na talaga namang may progress. More and more girls are going to school, more and more women are getting employed, more and more women are asserting their rights, more and more women have access to, health and reproductive health, and, more and more women are, joining the labor force. So, and more women are serving in parliaments, and becoming managers, decision makers. So that's the positive side. The negative side to that is true that whether it's in the Philippines or globally, there's still a significant number of discrimination that's happening. Sexual assault is happening, sexual harassment is happening. As I have mentioned, harmful practices are still happening, domestic violence is happening. One of the latest reports that the UN produced, I think last year, what struck me really almost shockingly is the fact that most women who are violated, either domestically or in work settings, or I think the one number that really sort of bothered me very significantly was the fact that the violence was being done by an intimate partner, by someone known to the person. So this is very shocking, very shocking. So I think the challenge, therefore, is really, so we have progress on the one hand, and the Philippines maybe is a kind of a hybrid example, because, we know for a fact how many we've had 2 women presidents, right? Almost 3. We had 2 women presidents. We have so many women in parliament, in Congress or the Senate. We have so many women, leading corporations, companies, decision makers, managers, teachers, heads of schools, etc., hospitals. So we have many good examples of women in decision-making positions. But on the other hand, if you really analyze that, Francie, and look at the variables, what family, family backgrounds, educational backgrounds, employment background, you kind of unearth a lot of things that, in poorer communities, many of these biases are still happening and discrimination is still prevalent. You go to the rural areas is one perfect way to really see that it's still happening. Yeah.
Thank you po, Dr. Delia. I think we have a question. I think Mr. Brian wants to ask a question.
Brian.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. First and foremost, ma'am, we congratulate you and also would like to give our appreciation with regards to your talk, ma'am. You have mentioned the statistics with regards to the GDP or general population. With all these statistics that has been given, is there a sweet spot with regards to the population that would be manageable, or would be the more comfortable numbers in relation with our current economy, with our current GDP right now? So you have mentioned right now, I think we're around 130 million. So with the growth rate of our GDP, so in 5 to 10 years time, so do you have any idea what is the sweet spot with regards to the number of population of the Philippines that would really be manageable to prevent such hunger, such problems with the society, with criminal rate, education, food, etc. So do we have that? Do we have that number?
Mahirap yung question ni Brian. Mahirap sagutin, no? I don't have the number. And the Philippines doesn't even have the number, But let me tell you some insights that I picked up from just talking with some people from NEDA. So, ang problema natin, I think our fertility rate is still something like, bumaba na, it used to be 5.6, something. I think we're now at 3.7 or something like that. So we're not reproducing as fast or as many as before, but the economy is not growing in the same pace as the population. And if you complicate that, compound that with inflation, the problems of inflation, you can immediately conclude that the economy is not carrying the population. So may capacity issue that agad tayo, diba? And then you can still go deeper, Brian. And again, that's why I said hindi ako demographer, because demographers will really, go deep into the analysis of kung eto yung population mo, what are the economic levels of different population groups. Tingnan mo siya, isa-isahin mo siya. Let's say men and women. I-unpack mo pa amongst the men, older, middle, young, or children. So the same with women. Tingnan mo yung education levels. Tingnan mo yung parents' education. Tingnan mo yung access to all kinds of services. So it's a matrix, Brian. Wala kasi siyang linear line. It's a matrix. You've got to look at all the dynamics. Kaya siya population dynamics ang tawag kasi it's linked to everything else. And it's not a straight line. Maaring ang ganda ng progreso natin sa some aspects of education, some aspects of gender equality, but not on food security. Nag-i-import pa tayo ng rice. Samantalang we have IRRI in Los Baños that trained all the rice producers in Asia. And now we're importing from Vietnam and Thailand and Indonesia. So there is some disconnect. In fact, I analyzed some articles when I was, holding my class, my lecture class in UP. Pati yata salt, nag-i-import na tayo. What is this? I mean, these are basic food. So I think the point I'm trying to make, and again, I'm sorry for being kind of limited in responding to you, is like, yun man lang sanang basics, masecure ng government, masecure ng Pilipinas. If we have 130 million people, sana walang nagugutom. Sana lahat merong basic shelter. Sana may opportunities lahat na makapag-aral. Kung may sakit sa pamilya, madala sa ospital. Di ba? Yun yung questions ko. May kakainin at hindi namamatay. So I don't know the soft spot that you're looking for, Brian. I don't have it. But I hope that we have enough expertise in the Philippines to really imagine what kind of economic scenarios we need for the Philippines to really go back to the Asian tiger that we used to be in the 70s and 80s. Napag-iiwanan na tayo. Nakakalungkot. I mean, I know I'm not critical of government as, per se. I'm just saying, dahil I'm older than most of you, probably. So I know I was in high school in the late 60s, 70s, college. Nakita ko yung parang nag-deteriorate ang economy. But again, let me just say that many of us are fortunate to be in good situations. We have families that support us. We have been able to go to school. Most of us have jobs. We're never hungry. We have shelters over our head. So we are not typical. Yun ang problema natin, Brian. Sometimes I really feel sad that, ang daming disadvantaged na hindi pa natin natutulungan. So that's my kind of pessimistic response to you. So I don't have the answer, but there could be some answers, and hopefully in the future, our government.
Thank you, ma'am. So again, would really want to send our appreciation. With your talk, ma'am, most probably it would help all us Rotarians to find more impactful projects to serve the marginal community. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Magdagdag lang ako, Francie, if I may, kasi kaya ako kanina in-stress ko yung point ng sustainability kasi kagaya din ng UN, and yung point ni Brian kanina, so ang Rotary ang daming ginagawa. Pag binalik mo yung issue ng sustainability, so kailangan natin i-bring up yung issue ng can we scale it up? Can we replicate it? Can we have a multiplier effect? Kasi kung hindi, they remain good examples of good programs, but they're never sustained kasi limited ang human or technical or financial resources. The same thing that's happening with the UN. When I was still working, I would ask myself, poverty alleviation is one of our big issues. Why is it that poverty seems to be increasing every year? Because the UN is there as a convener of development programs and public advocate, but without government support, ang government lang ang kayang scale up ng anything. Only government can scale up any program. Kaya if the government is not on your side, or the government is weak, or the government is corrupt, or the government is inefficient, no matter how good your programs are, they will remain just good programs, good examples. The same thing with Rotary. And I'm being self-critical. Ang dami nating magandang programa sa Rotary. Pero sana 'di ba, massive. Sana yung it affects all 10A zone ba yung Philippines, lahat ng Rotary, lahat ng community sa Pilipinas. But if you think of the 1,500 barangays in the Philippines, ilan lang yung talagang makakaangat. Sorry, meron pa ako isang point lang, Francis. Sorry, sometimes I talk too much when I get excited. But sabi ko nga, kung bawat isang mayor ng barangay na lang, I go to the smallest unit, lahat ng barangay captain. Kung lahat ng barangay, and I forget the number of barangays we have in the Philippines, kung lahat ng barangay uunlad, hindi ba uunlad yung munisipyo? Hindi ba uunlad yung probinsya? At kung lahat ng probinsya maunlad, di ba yung buong Pilipinas uunlad? So I'm saying, it's a kind of a cascading effect eh. Kung maliit yung effort, edi okay lang na supportahan nating community. They're happy with all the things we're doing, but I hope we can scale up. That's the thing I'm saying. Yeah.
Thank you po, Dr. Delia. I do agree with that na babalik tayo sa larger support system ng government. That's why accountability talaga. So we have a question from Eric Sell. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing the name wrong. Is it possible that our country legalize or adopt what other countries have in particular the China, about the growth of population rapidly? I think ito po ba yung, clarify lang po, ito po ba yung one-child policy? I think that's okay.
Di aawayin naman tayo ng human rights advocates kasi nga ang balik tayo sa informed choice rights and informed choice, but you cannot mandate the right. You cannot mandate something that if I say I have a right to choose how many children I can bring into this world, pag nilagyan mo siya ng mandate na ganyan na one child policy. I was in China one time visiting the programs that we have on the ground. Meron sila talagang health workers, monitor kung kailan ang ovulation ng woman. So that malaman nila kung mag-ovulate na, alam mo na, you have to enforce abortion. I mean, it's really a sad state, and I'm against the one-child policy. We cannot do it that way. We've got to come up with more programs that educate people on how to make the right choices, informed choices. Merong information, education, and communication about health services, about family planning. Kung ayaw ng artificial, let's go natural. But all of this requires some educational interventions.
Thank you. I would just like, before moving to the next question, okay ka po ba?
Okay na okay, kahit di tayo matulog.
Sige, I would just like to recognize what Sir Alvin said. I agree with Ms. Barcelona. The current situation and the trend is unfortunately not going in the direction where we should be. First thing, though, is we should not depend solely on government initiatives. We should not lose hope in creating hope for all of us. Small effort can be a trigger to bigger scale, which is true. Okay. Sino po si Samsung SM? May I ask po kung sino po ito? But
Arlene, ikaw ba yan?
Si Arlene.
Si Arlene, ikaw ba yan?
okay. Sige po. So if you would
Nasa-
like to ask or express,
kalsada siya.
go lang po.
Alright.
Hindi ko pala nalagay yung pangalan ko, sorry. Hindi kasi
Ingat, Em.
yes, good morning. Sorry ha, nasa biyahe kasi ako. But ma'am, I just felt disturbed. Kasi nung narinig ko yung sabi ninyo na bakit may dalawang Asian countries na na-maintain nila yung number ng population nila, the Thailand and yung isa. Tapos tayo, grabe, nag-increase. So, ang talagang main cause ng poverty natin, yung matinding growth ng population. Ang sa akin lang, napag-aralan na kaya ng gobyerno, ano ba yung cause talaga? Bakit? Baka naman dahil ang dami nating mga yung mga young pregnancy, ano pa ba? Yung mga violence against, hindi, yung mga babae na nare-rape, yung mga ganun, napag-aralan na ba yun? Kasi yun talaga ang tingin ko yun talaga yung main cause eh. Baka pagka nabigyan natin ng pansin niya, na-educate natin itong mga bata na hindi okay ang maging yung batang ina, baka makatulong tayo para ma-maintain din natin yung population ng Pilipinas. Yun, ma'am.
Nag-agree ako sa'yo, Eileen ba? Tama ba? Did I say Eileen? So, tama. Ang problema natin talaga kasi, kulang tayo ng education efforts to deal with this issue. So,
Bigla ko naisip kami.
Wala talagang, di ba yung example ko lang, ako pag nasa Pilipinas ako, sasakay ako ng kahit ano, sasakay ako ng tren, ng LRT, sasakay ako ng tricycle, sasakay ako ng jeep, sasakay ako ng taxi, kinakausap ko yung drivers, nakikipagkwentuhan ako, may ilan ba anak mo, and lalo kong nare-realize that they don't know, sabi niya, 10 po anak ko, ganyan, yung parang, hindi kailangan ma-internalize ng families, ng individuals na kung hindi mo kayang buhayin, 'di ba? Kailangan nating, the word is managing that size, family size. Kasi bakit anak ng anak? Yun talaga ang ano ko eh. Masyado ba tayong fertile as a people na anak tayo ng anak? Daanan nyo lahat ng squatters area natin, siksikan talaga, wala nang tulugan, walang pagkain, walang water, walang electricity, dagdag ng ng numbers. I really parang feeling ko, what is the government doing? So balikan ko lang, Francis, sinabi mo kanina talaga, government accountability is the number one requirement. Pag accountable ang gobyerno sa programang kailangan ng bansa, uunlad tayo. And we need everybody, by the way. Yung sabi kanina si President Alvin yata, yung kailangan talaga partnerships, kaya yung 17 Sustainable Development Goals, ang 17th goal, which is a means and a goal in itself, is partnerships. Kasi no one group, no one person can do it, Kailangan natin lahat. Kailangan natin ng mga eskwelahan, kailangan natin mga teachers maniwala na this is important, nasamahan ng ganyong education yung curriculum. Kailangan natin ng i-link ang health services, kailangan connected sa lahat ng labor and employment, etc. So hindi siya pwedeng one, kailangan ng government, private sector, non-government, civil society, kailangan ng media to promote it, kailangan ng academics to do the research. So we need everybody. It's not a one-person job or a one office or organization job. That's where Rotary comes in. Rotary is a partner, an important partner.
Thank you po. May inad po si Mr. Eric that this is why sex education should always be discussed not only in school, but also in the family. And yes, I agree. Hanggang ngayon, taboo pa rin siya pag-usapan, but I definitely think na...
Meron akong, Francis, meron akong theory na ituturo ko lang sa inyo, baka mapag-isipan natin, Parang sa Pilipinas kasi, we are confused by our own religious background.
Yeah.
Naku-confuse tayo, dapat ba, hindi dapat? Maganda ba to o hindi to maganda? Tama ba? The reason why the reproductive health bill took years to get approved is because ang dami nating opponents for it. At saka yung notion ng sex education, akala mo talaga, kids become more promiscuous when they are taught sex education. No, on the contrary, research is saying you give them education, you give them information, they are forearmed, to deal with it when they get older and when they reach the stage that they. So, palagay ko yung pagiging yung religious background natin, nagkakaroon ng conflicting effect on our policies. Hindi tayo maging consistent because, we don't know if we're going forward or backward. We go forward pag progressive ang presidente or leadership natin, pero pag hindi, we go backward. So, para tayong urong-sulong.
Yes. I think may tanong si Francis. Sabi niya sa akin, kanina pa daw niya gusto magtanong.
Pagbigyan mo
Nahiya
naman
na
yung
ata.
tatay mo.
Actually, I was going there, and I mentioned na about that one, the religious or our effect ng ating. Kasi I was going to Francie actually kasi siya ay isang advocate or a volunteer ng isang is it the Pinsan, Francie? Is it
Yes.
right? Yeah. Because at the same
Pinsan.
time, I was asked by my younger daughter, 17 years old, kasi they have meron daw silang, daw yung nagdidebate daw sila sa school about this, about anong. So, yun na, pumasok na yung paano nga ba natin maano, kasi yun talagang nagkakaroon ng problema, yung pagdating na sa sex education or reproductive. Kasi, being in a Catholic dominated
Ano ba to?
Philippines, medyo mahirap kasi sabi ko nga dun sa anak ko, paano? You have this, even this bill na hindi ino-oppose, for example, kalahati ng Congress o kalahati ng o lagpas ayaw sa abortion o ayaw sa ganun. Paano na yung health ninyo if ever? May mga cases ng abortion tulad ng na-mention sa ni organization ni Francie na they are pushing for the abortion na reasonable or something. So I think yan din ang nagiging kasi looking at the map kanina na pinakita ni Dr. Del. Sabi ko nga, tama, nandun sa population ng problema kasi bago tayo mag-zoom in doon sa mga problema sa tubig and everything, lahat. Oo nga naman, paano nga hindi naman nagkakaroon ng problema kung wala naman na ma-manage natin talaga yung population eh. So bago ka nga magkaroon ng problema ka sa tubig, sa kuryente, whatever, yung mga basic needs ng ating tao, na at least ngayon yung iba hindi makakuha ng basic needs lang. So bago nga naman pumunta ron, teka nga muna, oo nga naman. Bago tayo mag-create ng problema pa yan, tingnan muna from the macro, titingnan mo from the top. Yun talaga yung pinaka-main dapat unahin muna. Yun ang, for me, ganun talaga yung dapat maging approach. So, yun lang naman, hindi naman na parang so I'm saying is that kung mariresolve sana natin yung part na magiging open-minded or magiging lang yung ating mga politicians or whatever, and besides, para naman sa welfare naman talaga to, especially sa akin. So, sa akin, I have 3 daughters, so I'm very much concerned about their welfare actually. Yun lang, thanks.
Thank you. Francie, meron akong idadagdag sa sinabi ni HCP. So, yung point lang na maganda sana nating pag-isipan, yung tinatawag na replacement level. Sa population dynamics, may tinatawag na replacement level Yung parang if every couple, if every family brings, but this is traditional kasi nga when you bring in all the LGBT community, wala na yung traditional couple. But let me just cite something of the past na parang yung replacement level, ang assumption niya is, if you are a couple, you bring in 2 into this world. So parang replacement level lang. But the reality is, a couple can bring in as many as 10. And let me just say, I come from a very big family. Let me just tell you, my generational issue. I am the youngest of 13. I'm the youngest of 13 children. So, pero lahat kami magkakapatid, wala nang sumunod sa nanay at tatay namin. Ang average children na lang namin, sabi mo na 4, 5. So, ako 2 lang, di ba? So that's already my generational shift na, hindi ba? And then I think about my 2 daughters. Like you, HCP Francis, I have 2 daughters naman, ikaw 3. My elder daughter has 1 child, doesn't want another. My second daughter doesn't want children, only have 2 dogs. So another generational shift. I'm saying, ito lang yung, this is kind of maybe an American, phenomenon. Kasi kung nasa Pilipinas siya, hindi pwedeng hindi mag-anak daw. Kaya may anak, diba? So social values and norms also come into the picture. But the point I'm saying is we need to look at these shifts. The paradigm shifts can be generational. Baka wala na tayong magawa sa, pero yung young population natin, if we really invest in their education, make them think that the future, they can imagine the future that they want, bigyan ng education, assure them of education that leads to employment, give them the right, information so that they can make informed choices about the kind of families or if and when they want to get married, if they do, how many children they can bring into this world. Mababago, maano natin, we can correct, para bang magiging corrective measure. Kasi hindi man natin makontrol yung 130 million natin ngayon, pero kung may parallel efforts to really accelerate efforts in areas that invest in the young for the future, baka yung next generation natin might see a better future than us, than me.
Okay, thank you for that, Dr. Delia. Baka po may gusto humabol from the floor.
Francie,
Yes.
Lori here.
Okay.
Hindi ko i-on yung camera ko. But I see that IPP Alvin is raising his hand. Unahin mo muna siya.
Sige po. So, si PP Alvin po muna. Yes po.
Hi, thank you, Francie. Sorry, hindi ko ma-on yung aking camera. Gusto ko lang dagdagan yung sinabi ni Dr. Barcelon. Ang isang pwede kasing tingnan din natin is how do we enable initiatives and stay with it para yun naman yung palakasin. Kasi isa sa mga nagiging drawback ng mga initiatives, we have so many ideas, another brilliant person will come up with an idea, and in the process, ang nangyayari natatabunan tuloy yung iba. Samantalang from the beginning, ang ganda na sana nun. Like, one case is, okay, family planning. O kaya yung mga bata ngayon na sinasabing hanggang ngayon tama pa rin naman yung sinabi ng ating mga bayani, sila pa rin ang future ng ating bayan. Pero paano ba natin sila nabibigyan ng isang klaseng pag-iisip na habang sila ay magaling, hindi sila dapat tumingin papunta sa abroad pagka sila ay nagtatrabaho na. Of course, you cannot blame them dahil sasabihin nila there is not much available opportunities for me here. However, kung titingnan nila na after 3, 4, 5 years of experience working abroad, pwede na silang bumalik dito and then apply whatever knowledge they gain internationally. And of course, mahirap din habang iniisip natin yung gobyerno kasi should be the focal point of all these things. Naniniwala pa rin kasi ako na habang ang gobyerno ay nandyan lang, we as citizens can still do something about the direction of this country. Hindi ba? Kasi kung makikita nila na merong certain group, certain sector who really believes that this is the way to go and it will create a snowball effect. Magigising at magigising din yung mga yan dahil alam niyo sabi nga meron namang Diyos may hanggang man lahat Di ba? Yung mga yan yung mga kusino man ng pinuno ng gobyerno natin ngayon who is seemingly not seeing what we are seeing now. May hangganan naman yan no? So the bottom line for my statement is we should continue enabling the good works that we are initiating and then focus, di ba? Doon ko nga na-realize maganda yung theme ng Rotary natin ngayon, creating hope or hope creating president. si Francis. So how do we do that, no? And how to take it from there, di ba? Yun po, yun. Meron bang ganyang initiative na nasimulan na papunta ron ang direksyon? Kasi ngayon, okay, maganda itong isang topic na to, maganda itong topic na to, then what's next? Yun eh. Kaya kulang ba? Kulang ang nangyayari, puro kwentong barbero lang na pag-usapan, pero yung next steps, yun yung minsan kailangan nating gawin. Hindi ba? And it is all coming from good intentions. Ang ganda eh. No? Pero yung next steps, yun yung dapat siguro ding mapag-usapan. Yun lang po. Yun yung gusto kong sabihin. It's more of a comment and challenge to everybody rin. Yan po. That's all from my side. Thank you.
Thank you po, Sir Alvin. Insightful po indeed. May dagdag ka po ba, Doctor? Or we move to...
Amen lang. Amen. Amen to what PV Alvin said. Amen.
I think, bago po kay Sir Noel, si Ms. Rodora po ata ay gusto magsalita.
There, go ahead, Noel. Mauna na siya.
Sige.
Thank you, Dory. Actually, population control, it should be population, not population control, but population management, as you said. I believe that the government should initiate this population management rather than even with the opposition of of other sectors like the religious groups. I think the religious group has their own job to do to oppose, because that's their beliefs. And I also believe that the government has another thing to do to provide management on population. Actually, population growth is not really bad per se, because it adds to the workforce actually. So in fact, when abortion was approved here in the United States, I don't know what year, they celebrated 50 million aborted cases in the Philippines, in the United States. And they said that if these 50 million children were joined the workforce, we don't have problem with our Social Security. And this is also the problem with our with the other first nations, developing those developed nations. They have a zero growth population, so they're accepting immigrants from other countries like Asians and Africans dahil yun ang mga populated. So if we only stop corruption and we educate the voters na they vote the correct leaders who will lead us to provide programs that will lead into distribution of our resources equally, or at least productively. Sa tingin ko, may pag-asa. May pag-asa. Yun lang.
Thank you, sir.
Mamaya ako mag-comment after Dory. Yeah.
Sige.
Thank you.
Before po si Miss Dory, can I ask po muna Dr. Delia if okay pa po ba one more question after Dory?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, sure.
Sige po. Miss Dory, the floor is yours.
Hinihintay ko nga kung sasabihin ni Delia na sasagot siya pagkatapos kang magsalita. Napaka-interesting kasi yung issue Kasi, and Delia knows this, I've been a population, human rights, women's rights, children's rights advocate for 30 years. Counting, iniisip ko, ang tagal na pala noon. I started in 1994. And this issue, particularly the very private issue of family planning, has become very, very contentious. May nagtanong, very contentious, very controversial, na pumasok na ang ating mga church groups sa bedroom, so to speak. I'm using those words because it's really, I believe, the decision of the parents or the husband and wife or the partners to be able to decide kung ilan ang gusto nilang anak. Nasa kanila yon, di ba? But it is government's role, and as it is also the role of the private sector and the academe and all other sectors to be able to support kung ano yung vision o dream ng bawat couple sa kanilang decision making. Kaya iniisip ko nga when we started planning to have this particular webinar, paano kaya ang magiging reaction ng ating mga kasama considering the controversy surrounding this issue? There was a question earlier kung napag-aralan ba ito, kung may nag-aaral na, di ba? Parang ganun yung tanong. Opo, since 1969, bata pa ako noon pero inaral, hindi ako ang mismo nag-aral, pero ang mga leaders natin, inaral na talaga na kailangan natin somehow magkaroon ng population policy. And that was why the Commission on Population and even my very own NGO, I used to head it, the Family Planning Organization of the Philippines, were created at the same time. Pero through the years, Del was correct in pointing out that it depends. Kung ano yung polisiya, nagbabago, depende sa kung sino ang presidente. The question now to Rotary is, we like, based on what were raised na, yung mga tanong, and even yung manilagay sa chat group, ano ang ating magiging role? I am the one who's gonna close this webinar, pero gusto ko nang kaagad na sabihin yon even before my actual closing. Ano yung gusto nating role? Are we ready to go into something controversial? Or we choose the ones that are less controversial and be able to address these little issues until we are able to make an impact? Tama si IPP Alvin. We should continue enabling good works natin. Kaya, itong ginagawa natin, nag-uusap tayo. It's a conversation. And then, we can go in separate directions, meaning each club going to the direction na comfortable sila, or collectively, let's do something. Kumbaga, because I recall, and this was around 20 years ago, 20 or 15 years ago, meron kaming network, yung Reproductive Health Advocacy Network. Alam niyo ba kung sino ang group na kasama namin? Very active? Rotary. Rotary District 3780. Kaya noon pa, kilala ko na yung Rotary dahil doon, active siya sa population and development issues. Is it something that we'd like to do again without interfering in family choices? Meaning, informed choice, hindi natin siya alaman dahil nga controversial siya in terms of religion. But what is very important to us as Rotarians is to also to be able to understand that family planning, health, education are all part of human rights. And it is tantamount for government and other sectors to respect, protect, and fulfill human rights. Are we, as Rotarians, are we ready to do that? So, yun lang. And that was not the closing. That was just a comment that I'm making. Because, Delia, it saddens my heart that after all these years, after kahit ako mismo yung personality ko, yung family ko, binanatan ng mga tao na against family planning and reproductive health. Parang ang feeling ko, ba't ganun? Umaabot na ba sa ganun na nagpe-personalan? Diba? It was so bad that thinking about it makes me very sad. My experience. So I'm happy that I'm now with you talking about this again. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that, Ms. Dory. And
Pwede nang mag-comment.
okay,
Pwede.
sige. Okay, go.
Bago magsara, no? So, thank you so much for all the comments. Talagang insightful and, di ba, thought-provoking, hindi ba? Tutuhugin ko lang from what PP Alvin said to VP Noel and then, PP Dory. So, ang analysis ko, maybe from the outside looking in, and I would say I'm also an insider kasi ano naman ako ang puso ko nasa Pilipinas kahit na nandito ako. Kaya parang feeling ko, kilala ko naman ang Pilipinas, hindi ko lang alam lahat ng detalye. But ang point ko, ang laki ng problema kasi ng Pilipinas kaya hindi mo alam kung saan ang entry point. Yun ang pinaka-challenge natin Saan tayo magsisimula? So, I like parang I'm pinipick up ko. So, okay, let's zoom in a little bit now on Rotary. So, ang ganda ng theme ngayon, di ba? In creating hope. And then nga, lahat ng presidente, like, HCP Francis, kailangan ang legacy mo after 1 year is nakapag-create ka ng hope. And how do you do that? Parang, kung papasukan natin yung gobyerno, aside from the partnerships that we already have, whether sa local government or sa city or sa national government, ang laking trabaho din yan Baka hindi na, ibig sabihin, there are so many Rotary clubs all over the Philippines, so hindi din pwedeng isang club lang ang makakatrabaho niyan dahil we're all over. I don't know how many clubs we have in all of the Philippines. But parang ang nakikita kong entry point ng Rotary na magkakaroon talaga ng impact, and I'm using the word that PP Alvin used, yung enabling, enabling. What can we do to enable the good initiatives to be sustained? So palagay ko ang sagot dyan, yung kabataan pa rin. Let's go back to what we know from our history. Ang future ng motherland is still young people. So siguro tutukan natin yung young people ng Rotary, yung Rotaractors natin, and yung interactors natin, yung young Rotarians, the young professionals na may pag-asa pang mabago yung pag-iisip. Kasi yung matatanda, di ba, you can no longer change, set na yung ways, set ang thinking, set ang ways, pero yung mga kabataan, malleable pa yan pwede pa yung ma-influensya ng good thinking, good ideas, good programs, good policies, good potentials, good opportunities. So I think yun ang ating parang yun ang gusto kong ending na challenge natin is maybe with Rotary focusing or creating hope among young people, that we are with you, we will support you, we will be your mentors, we will guide you, you engage with us, we will help each other, you are the future of this land. I think we can reach another level. Sorry, I'm a natural optimist. But
no, I agree. So I think we can wrap there. Pero okay lang po ba one more question? Para lang po, ipagsasama ko na po sila kasi similar lang naman.
Okay, sure.
It's the case of population growth daw po. What if sobra na po yung population? Kasi sabi po that the Earth can only hold a certain capacity. Are they thinking of exploring interventions or verbatim? Are they exploring other planets where to live? Ano po masasabi dito?
Kasama yan. Yes. So, naalala ko lang kanina pala, balikan ko yung sinabi ni PP Alvin kanina, di ba dati nung meron tayong Balik Sciences program, DOST introduced that, kasi talagang dami natin eksperto. In fact, isang problema ng Pilipinas, we have too many experts, we don't have enough doers, so that's one thing. Yeah. But it's true that the future is looking into all kinds of possibilities, infinite possibilities talaga. Yun yung sinasabi din ng SWAP report Kahit nga yung use of technology, Hindi ba sa education, we have already revolutionized education by making technology available. Marami nang nakakapag-aral through distance learning, through the use of computers and laptops. Hindi na nung dating traditional na kailangan sa classroom ka. Di ba? You can do remote teaching. So, ang point ko lang, parang wag naman sana yung ibang planeta. I don't want to go to Mars. But I'm saying, yung Philippines, pag tiningnan mo yung population ng Philippines, let's just say, kung meron tayong analyst na makagawa yan, tingnan mo kung nasaan yung population dynamics at its worst. Nasaan yung areas where the population is really teeming with numbers. Malamang yan cities, di ba? So, nagkaroon na tayo noon ng Balik Probinsya program. How do we encourage people to go back to less populated areas? Hindi magawa yan dahil kailangan mo, pag inilipat mo yung mga population groups into other areas, you've got to provide them educational schools, jobs, di ba? Hindi yan basta lilipat kung walang employment. They think everything is happening in the city. So, kaya hindi nag-succeed yung Balik Probinsyang programang niyan kasi hindi inalalayan ng gobyerno on what's needed infrastructurally to sustain the Balik Probinsya program. That's the sad part. So, but I think kung susundan natin yung tinanong kanina ni Brian yata. So, overpopulated na ba ang Pilipinas? Are we reaching our parang yung capacity limits ng Philippines with our present population? I would like to think hindi pa yata. Kasi di ba, out of 7,590 islands, 2,000 islands lang naman ang may tao. Padala kaya natin sila sa ibang islands, hindi ba? Parang you have to depopulate the congested areas. That's one thing. But you need demographers to really analyze and study. How do we yun yung population management, VP Noel, how do you manage it so that you can redirect population groups from a congested location to a less congested location? So, yun yung challenge, and then provide them the necessary services and opportunities so that they will feel hindi sila displaced or marginalized in those new places. Ang dami pwedeng usapan. Sorry talagang, it's a big topic. It's a really big topic, but thank you for the opportunity.
And umabot na rin tayo ng 1 hour sa ating open forum. So I think we could wrap it there. Sobrang excited po ng members na mag-share ng insight nila. Okay, so I think we can recognize now our resource speaker. I would like to call on VP Noel Quintana, our Satellite Club Chair, to give the Certificate of Appreciation.
Oo naman, meron pa palang certificate.
Okay. The Rotary Club of Kagitingan, Cubao, this is a certificate of appreciation presented to Ms. Delia Barcelona.
Nawala po ba Nawala po ba siya? Or yung wifi ko lang?
I think we lost him.
Okay, sige, tuloy ko na lang po. In grateful recognition and commendation for her valuable effort and exemplary performance as resource speaker on Why Population Matters, given this 30th day of July 2023 at RC Kagitingan Cubao's webinar. So I think, smile po kayo, Dr. Delia. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay, sige po.
Thank you very
Now
much.
let's move
Thank
on.
you so much. Thank you so much. Yes.
I think i-email na lang po yung certificate. No? Now, let's move on to our closing remarks. Let me call on TP Rodora Roterta, our membership committee chair.
Apologies, hindi ko i-on ang aking camera. It has how many hours did we what time is it now? It's almost 11 a.m. dyan sa Pilipinas and almost 11 p.m. dito sa amin sa Amerika. And my task is to give the closing remarks, and as chair of the membership committee and as a learning facilitator of the club, part of our role, of my role really, is to be able to lead, suggest kung ano ang mga topics na pwedeng mapag-usapan ng club at makapag-imbita rin kami ng other guests, particularly ang other clubs, HCPs and other clubs. With that in mind, for this first webinar of our club, we thought of not going too far. Hindi kami lumayo, in other words, because the person whom we invited is an honorary member of the Rotary Club of Kagitingang Cubao and our advisor para sa aming Rotary Area of Focus Team, or RAFT, we call it RAFT, on disease prevention and treatment. That is Dr. Delia Barcelona. As had also been mentioned, she's a past president of Rotary, and how we wish that she would return as a full-time member of the club, but we know that she has also been very active in supporting her other club, and that is the Rotary Club of Pakil in Laguna. So thank you, Delia. Yan ang una kong pasasalamatan. Thank you very much for your time. I know you're traveling in the next few days. So sorry at iniistorbo namin ang iyong kumbaga preparation time. I'd also like, as I close, let me also thank the HCPs who are here and the members of their clubs. Thank you very much for saying yes, na you will be joining us. And then I also noted that our sa region natin, Region 3, andito si DDS Lane and also si past President Ryan Viray, who I understand is the district chair on community services. Thank you to our district leaders for joining us. And of course, it's also very heartening to note that we are fully supported by our club members, of course, led by HCP Francis and more than 10 of our members, and even one of our members is actually in Korea at nanonood din siya sa atin. Siya ang aming community service chair, Sugaira Alfaro. So, and several of us are in the United States, particularly here in New York City. So, our again, as we close, one thing that struck me, or two things that struck me, was what Delia was saying about no one should be left behind. Yan din ang isang battle cry, so to speak, ng Rotary Club of Kagitingang Cubao, a sharing and caring club, that we should be able to reach first yung ating communities, our adopted barangays and our adopted schools, but also try to reach as many as possible of those who cannot be reached ordinarily by other sources. And so that is a very exciting trend that we are seeing right now in what the club is doing. The other thing that I'd like to share with you is that one of these days soon, we will have a webinar on the 2021 Young Adult Fertility and Sexuality Study, or YAFS. We would like to invite, once again, the HCPs who are here, and we could partner in this endeavor. And I'm sure that later, our very own HCP Francis, if we could also ask him to let everyone know about the film showing, click, like, and share, that will be happening on the 22nd. So what is the challenge to us all? What can we do together? How can we work together? How can our clubs address the concerns raised in this particular webinar? Merong na-mention sa chat box si past President Luz Atendido relating population growth and environmental degradation. Maybe tayo, participating clubs, can do something about it. All together, let's keep on talking, because from talking will come action, plans, and then action. Last thing I want to say is, I don't know if you noticed that the person who read our four-way test is one of our young members. And also, our host, and she is doing perfectly great, is the youngest member of our club. She's Francie Sabalza. Not only is she the daughter of the president, but she has carved her own niche within Rotary, within our club, as a women and girls advocate. And the one who gave the four-way test is also, again, one of our very young members. So what is important for us as we leave this event or this webinar? Let's think. Let's think and let's hope that we are able to do what we have thought about and what we have planned. Thank you very much to everyone.
Thank you, VP Rodora Roterta. Thank you very much. I think to conclude our webinar, congratulations na rin. I will again call on our Hope Creating President, Francis Sabalza.
Thank you, Francis. And also thank you to Dr. Del Sotona for napakaganda po ng topic natin.
Can you go closer to your mic? Kasi medyo...
Okay.
Okay.
Okay na ba? Is that good?
Konti pa. Lapit ka.
Sorry.
Ayan, better.
Thank you so much, Francie, and of course, thank you, Piti Dori, for initiating this webinar. At of course, thank you, Dr. Delia. Dahil napakaganda po ng topic natin at bigla pong nagdumami yung kulang ang isang oras ng discussion. Baka the whole day we'll be discussing about all these things. Ang daming kumukonektang issues dito sa topic na to. At I'm very, very napaka-interesting po. At hatak po niya lahat with regards to dun sa ating society at sa welfare ng ating. So, again, gaya ng sinasabi namin ni Pitori at of course ni club namin, we're more focused now dun sa youth talaga. So that is why we have this coming July 22. I'm inviting everyone to join us dun sa aming film showing that will tackle about HIV awareness, cyberbullying, and ano pang isa? Sorry, nawala na ako.
Mental health, HIV.
Na mental na ako. So mental health, yeah. So yeah, that is what napakano po.
Cyberbullying, classmate.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for bullying me. There you go. Thank you. So this is the click, like, and share. This is a film. It's a three short films. This is written by Ping Medin, a very well-known director also. So napakaganda po nito. It's focused more on the children, the students, and of course our kids, on what's happening and anong pressure na nangyayari sa kanila at this sa ating society ngayon, lalo na sa ating social media and everything. So we are inviting everyone to join us in this film showing. It's happening July 22 sa San Juan. So this is a red carpet screening. So I was informed that Mayor Joy Belmonte will be joining also, will be coming to this red carpet screening. And some other heads of Ateneo, department heads, and some other school heads also will be joining this film screening. So yeah, I'm tinitake advantage ko ngayon yung pag-plug nitong ating project in partnership with OMMP. So with this, since I think parang sabi ko nga kulang yung ating time para i-discuss pa further maraming issues about, of course, this nag-ano ng population. But we have to end this webinar. tayo at sa gusto natin, we have to end this. But really, thank you so much po sa lahat ng dumalo, sa mga CMs na nandito, kay PP Ryan, kay DDS Lane, of course, sa aking mga classmates, kay Eric Sal, thank you so much. And also sa aking clubmates, and of course, sa lahat po ng dumalo. May classmate, may batchmate dyan sa Samar. Nandun siya ngayon. Isa sa mga school heads, si Mr. Anisito Sultan. Kaklase ko ng high school. He is listening to our webinar. Thank you so much po. And now, I have to adjourn. Well, very sadly, I have to adjourn this webinar. So now I will be calling this webinar, first webinar ng RC Kagitingan Cubao adjourned po. Thank you.
Maraming salamat. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Should we take a picture or
Mag-picture
go na?
yata.
Okay.
Take a picture.
Nag-on cam na ang hindi pa nag-on.
Brian, yung sumusubo ka, Brian, dapat yung sumusubo ka, yun ang tatanungin.
Nakita na po sila.
By the way, Doc Brian is a neurosurgeon of Tala.
Wow.
Parang hindi halata no?
Okay. Ayan, nag-on cam na po si Miss Luz. Okay. Ayan, ang gaganda naman po. Okay. Sige.
Hi, Ma'am Dulce.
Okay, sige. I'll count to 3. Kung may habol po, habol na. And then I'll screenshot. Okay? 1, 2. Ay, ano yung habol ko? Wait lang. Humahabol pa ata si...
CM Lay.
Okay.
Sorry, still down with flu. Can't open cam.
Okay, sige.
Sorry.
Ayan, okay. So,
Yes, si CM Lay.
1, 2, 3, smile. Okay, another one po, waki naman. 1, 2, 3, smile. Okay po, sige. Thank you so much
Maraming salamat sa lahat.
po.
HCP Francis, PP Dory,
Thank
everybody.
you, Del.
Galing
Thanks,
po,
everybody.
Thank you. Thank
Thank
you,
you,
Dr.
Francis.
Barcelona.
Alvin,
Thank you.
everybody, thank you. Sorry, I cannot name names, but thank you so much for
Yeah,
the
thank you.
opportunity. Good night.
Thank you for
Okay.
sharing your time. Yeah,
Good night
thank you.
po.
Good night. Bye now. Bye.
Bye.
In a few minutes, bababay daw kay HCP.
Congrats, Press Francis. Sorry, not feeling well. Thanks for the invitation. And good to see you all. Congratulations. Bye.
Hi, AG Lane, DDS Lane.
Thanks, Pipi Rodora. Sugar, hi, from Korea pala.
Hi, hello, congrats, President Francis.
Meron pa tayong mga ibang webinar. Kaya yung isa ron, HCP, di ba, ang i-request natin mag-host si PP Sugar. Dahil community ang pag-uusapan. Thank you, Francie. You did very well. Palakpakan. Galing.
Okay.
Okay. Kailangan ko na rin mag-beauty sleep.
Yes. Ako ay magbe-breakfast na rin po. Okay.
Good night. Thank you so
Good night po.
much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.